Welcome back to the Truth Factory. It's a good thing that the deep state doesn't make television shows because the Las Vegas shooting has way too many plot holes. Let's go through all the inconsistencies and cracks in the official police story to try to find out what they're hiding from us. Because there's more to Stephen Paddock than what everyone's claiming, because gambling and real estate is a terrific cover for ill-gotten money. Take your dirty cash, put it in a few slot machines, or trade it in for chips, gamble it for a bit, win, lose, doesn't matter. At the end of the night, you can say that you won all of your money from the casino. You can even claim it on your taxes and make it legitimate. Then you can go and buy real estate in cash with it, and that's how you launder dirty money. It's very unlikely that Stephen Paddock has made his millions by playing the VLTs. VLTs are designed to not be in your favor, and even if you did win big a few times, you're always going to lose that money in the long run if you're a chronic gambler. It's most likely that Stephen Paddock gained his money illegally somehow, maybe selling weapons, selling drugs, maybe he was a hired hitman, I don't know. But regardless of how sketchy Stephen Paddock is, the police are also hiding something here. Lombardo is being told by the agent behind him, don't go there, when asked about Stephen Paddock's car.
I'm sorry?
Was the car planned for him to escape? So there might have been evidence that
Don't ask me to make assumptions.
Now, unless Lombardo is practicing creepy ventriloquism, this means that they're hiding details from the public and Stephen Paddock's car might be important. Speaking of vehicles, there was a receipt found belonging to Stephen Paddock for a car rental at the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. Since Phoenix is relatively close to Las Vegas, at first I thought maybe Stephen was picking someone up from here, but I couldn't find any international flights at that time, so I checked historical records at the airport within a 2-hour span of him picking up that rental vehicle, and I think this one is most likely. Instead of Stephen picking someone up, I think that he flew to Arizona. But you might be asking, why would Stephen fly somewhere and then drive back? Well, since the police reports say that Stephen drove a car, I believe that Stephen Paddock flew to Phoenix, rented a truck or a van at 3:05 p.m. on the 19th, and then returned it back to Vegas at 1 a.m. the following morning. Since he put close to an extra 80 miles on that vehicle than what is required for that trip straight from Phoenix to Las Vegas, it means that he went somewhere along the way. Maybe he picked up something that you wouldn't be able to carry on an airplane. Weapons makes the most sense, which would explain why he got guns in Arizona rather than Nevada, as Arizona requires no permit for open or concealed carry. Obviously, this is a theory, but why else would he fly to Phoenix and drive back to Las Vegas if he's a super wealthy guy who would normally fly everywhere? This also places Paddock in Vegas at 1 a.m. on September 20th. Yet reports say that the earliest time he was there was on September 22nd to the 25th when he rented a condo downtown. However, if he's in Vegas at 1 a.m. on the 20th, he's most likely going to stay at a hotel. So where did he stay between the 20th and the 22nd? Why does it take a cat to figure this out, yet journalists with thousands of dollars behind them can't? We also know that Paddock checked into the Mandalay Bay sooner than what was originally reported because of this receipt found for room service. And many people speculate that this was for 2 people, as it says 2 guests, which it may have been. Maybe it was an accomplice. Maybe he's just a fat guy who ate 2 meals. Perhaps it was for a hooker. I mean, the mainstream media is pushing now that Stephen loved hookers, which wouldn't surprise me given his lifestyle, but besides an unnamed source, there is no proof of that. The most peculiar thing here is the police finding a phone charger that didn't belong to Paddock's phone. So at one point there was probably somebody else in the room, and the police would be able to track that using the Vegas security cameras, which means that the police are withholding this information for a reason. But I believe that there were absolutely 2 people involved in the shooting because fellow YouTuber named the Truth Ranger has put out a video of forensic acoustic analysis that there was in fact a second shooter. Now, the Truth Ranger is a scientist and he explains how he calculated this in a very informative video, and I suggest you watch this if you haven't. I'll put a link to the full video in the description. But basically, the speed of a bullet is about 3 times faster than the speed of sound. So we used YouTube audio clips to determine the lag time between the sound of the bullets hitting and the rifle report sound. The lag time between those 2 sounds helps determine the distance from where the gun was fired to where the bullet hit. This is how he determined that there were 2 separate lag times, one from about 425 yards away, which is consistent with the Mandalay Bay, and another one from about 250 yards away, which means that the second shooter was somewhere in this circle. And like the Truth Ranger says, unless Paddock was some kind of portal opening, teleporting warlock or X-Men, there were absolutely 2 gunmen. And I went through Google Maps and here's all the places that I could find with an elevation within that distance where the second shooter could have been standing. And this is consistent with multiple multiple reports of witnesses saying that they thought that bullets were coming from different directions.
I definitely do believe that there was 100% more than one shooter. Every other person that I've talked to that did get unfortunately hit as well have all said the same things.
And at this point, I just want to remind everyone that so far there is no proof that Paddock killed himself, that the gun on the floor was used to kill Paddock. I mean, it's laying over top of him, which is kind of strange, and that Paddock was killed after the shooting. It is possible that Paddock was murdered before the shooting even began, and now he's just a patsy. And the next inconsistency is that the security guard story changed. Now, although this here security guard story is absolutely possible, I'm skeptical at this point, as I'm skeptical of this whole thing right now. The police say that Jesus Campos, an unarmed security guard, checked on Paddock's room because of a triggered alarm. Now, Paddock, having allegedly set up cameras in the hallway, saw Jesus was there and shot him through the door, hitting him in the upper right thigh 6 minutes before the shooting started, in which time he alerted the police and helped evacuate the entire floor. Now, first of all, that door looked like Swiss cheese because apparently Paddock approximately fired 200 times. But Jesus is pretty lucky that out of those 200 bullets, only one of them hit him, and it was in the leg. But getting hit in the leg isn't really like the movies. If a bullet hits your femoral artery in your upper thigh, you can bleed out in a few minutes. But before you do that, you'll go into hypovolemic shock. If you're lucky and it misses your artery, it'll either hit your bone or your muscle. If it hits your bone that close, it'll probably shatter it, and you'd be on the ground unable to walk. And if it hits your muscle, it's most likely going to disrupt your muscle function, and again, you'd be unlikely able to walk. This tells me that Campos was either very, very lucky and only one bullet out of the 200 just grazed him, and maybe he got this burst of adrenaline that kept him going, which I guess is possible. Anything's possible. Or if we want to go to a deep state conspiracy on this, it's possible that Campos was involved and shot himself in the leg after as an alibi. But to prove this would be hard without any of the security footage, and the fact that there is no security footage being released is crazy. Also, remember this note? Well, now police say that it had calculations of bullet trajectories to maximize the death count. Now, if that's true, then was Paddock a professional shooter? Like, was he a hitman, a hired assassin? Because that shit requires experience, it requires planning, and ruins the narrative that he was just some schmuck who went crazy one day. And if it is true, then why not release that note to the media? Has his writing been analyzed to prove that it's even Paddock's? And someone just happened to break into Paddock's home over the weekend, you know, right before the police were about to do their second search. Yeah, that's pretty normal, right? Neighbors report seeing a light on in that house, yet there are no signs of forced entry. Perhaps someone is hiding something or planting evidence. This whole thing has Deep State written all over it, and Deep State has been against Trump since day one. I mean, a domestic terror attack makes it appear that Trump is not in control. It also pushes the anti-gun narrative of the Democratic Party and further erodes support for the Second Amendment. I don't know, but between all these inconsistencies and his super weird brother...
Yeah, he had a quirky sense of humor. Well, what the hell is a quirky sense of humor? People watch movies where they butcher little kids. Have you ever fired an automatic weapon? It's not fun.
And the second shooter, and the break and enter, and the car rental, and Jesus Campos being shot in the leg yet carries on willy-nilly after helping everyone else. There is something going on here. And I don't know how anyone could believe that the police are not hiding something after watching this. This is definitely not the end of the story, but I fear that we'll never really know the truth. Alright, I'm sure I missed something. There's so much going on with this story right now, and it's changing every day. So I'll try to continue to update as new details come out. And as always, links to everything in the description. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon. Have a great night, guys. Meow.